Do you ever finish a game and think to yourself, man, that was awesome, but I wish there was more of it? Well, that's exactly what I'll be talking about in today's video. I have 10 JRPGs that I was so engrossed with or were just shorter than I wanted them to be, and I wish they never ended. What are some JRPGs you never wanted to end? Let me know in the comments. And if you love JRPGs and want to stay up to date with the latest news, reviews, and other fun videos just like this, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Now, this first game is probably not a surprise to anyone that's been following my channel for a long time, and that's my favorite game of all time, Persona 4 Golden. Now, to me, with the way the game loop works and the pacing of the story, at 60 to 70 hours, I felt like it was a perfect length and had a great conclusion. I just wanted more time with these characters. To me, this is my favorite cast of characters in any video game. I love how much we get to know them, not only in their specific dungeons, but also down their social link routes and just what happens with the story. Now, I do want to talk about the ending a little bit, so skip to this timestamp on the screen right here if you don't want the very end of the game spoiled for you. So at the very end of the game, there's a tease of how the characters change after the game ends, and they're all so different. They have different outfits, they just look different. It looks like they kind of have different personalities, and I wanted to spend time with those characters. How did they change? What's their life like? What's different about them? I would just love more adventures with this cast, and I guess you could say the game was perfectly paced. Like, it gave me just the right amount of time that had me wanting more time with these characters, but I'll just say I didn't want this game to end because I love this cast of characters so much, and I just wish we got more of it. But if the rumors are to be believed, we're probably getting a remake sometime soon, so my wish is probably coming true. Now, speaking of Persona, this next game, Eternights, is an indie team's take on that style of game. But instead, it takes place in Seoul, South Korea, and a virus breaks out into the world. It's killed a lot of people, or rather turned them into monsters, and now this train serves as your home base. And the main crux of the story is you're trying to get to the core of the outbreak to save humanity. And just like Persona, you have little side activities like you can scrounge around different places for supplies, you can talk to different characters, basically social links, and yes, there is a romance system that plays a big part in the end of the game. But the thing about Eternights is it's only about 10 hours long. I would have loved more of this game, especially after the cliffhanger endings. Like, what happens at the end of the game? What happens after the story ends? How does it keep going? I would have loved to have seen more with these characters because I love spending time with them, but there just wasn't enough of it. Now, I did start up a second playthrough because I just wanted to see how all the different character stories ended, but I didn't end up finishing it. I do eventually want to get back to it and see how the stories end because I just loved all the different characters of this game. I loved spending time with them. I loved getting to know their backstories, and it sounds like the game sold pretty well and they did get some funding and the team has expanded, so I'm looking forward to a potential sequel. I don't know if it'll be with the same exact characters or if it will be with different ones, but I just loved Eternights and I never wanted it to end. Now, while Ys 7 wasn't my first Ys game that I played, it was the one where I fell in love with the series. Now, here in Ys 7 is where they introduced the character swapping system, where different characters, you can swap between them on the fly. They each have different weaknesses that they can inflict on enemies, and it's just fun, arcadey action. Just like the moment-to-moment gameplay feels so good. It feels really satisfying to beat enemies, collect items, go through the levels. It's just so much fun. And here in Ys 7, they kind of have a Zelda-like gear design for the dungeons, where there's certain obstacles you can't get past until you get certain items. Like, for example, these boots that let you walk over spiky ground, and there's something like that in basically every dungeon. It was just so satisfying to go through the dungeon, get that item, and then go explore the parts that you couldn't explore before. But here's why Ys 7 is in this video. When I beat that game, I immediately started a second playthrough, and I genuinely can't remember another game where I did that. I just loved the moment-to-moment gameplay so much that I wanted to keep playing. Not to mention the game at the time looked really cool. I love the music. It's just really inviting with the town music, but then also really like gets you pumped up to explore and do combat when you're in those areas. And I just loved it. Now, obviously the newer games like 8, 9, and 10 are grander in scope and there's so much more to do, but there's just something about the smaller scope and the simplicity of 7 that I just loved. Like, you had a very specific linear direction for each part of the game and you just went through it and it just felt really satisfying. I think the game's only about 20 hours, so booting it right up again just felt right. And if you've never played Ys 7, like if you started with Ys 8 and never went back, Ys 7 is available on PC, and I think they might be doing a remake. I could be wrong, but either way, Ys 7 is a great game you definitely need to check out if you haven't. Now, something else I also never want to end is a healthy lifestyle, and that's where today's sponsor, HelloFresh, comes in. HelloFresh delivers easy-to-follow recipes with pre-portioned ingredients right to your doorstep. I know for me, sometimes the hardest part of eating healthy can be just going to the grocery store to figure out what to cook. Thankfully, HelloFresh makes it super easy with their biggest menu yet, with 50+ dinner options and even more market items that suit any healthy lifestyle. You can choose from 30+ calorie smart and protein smart recipes each week. As I've been hitting the gym hard in preparation for summer, the protein smart recipes have been amazing for my health journey. They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and HelloFresh agrees. In fact, they're giving all subscribers free breakfast for life. That means you'll enjoy a totally free breakfast item with every single HelloFresh delivery. Now that's important. And if you want to get started with your own health journey or just make cooking at home a whole lot easier, be sure to click my link in the description and order your first set of meals today. Your support helps me keep the channel running and produce more of the great content you enjoy. Thanks once again to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video, and now back to the video. Now, one of my absolute favorite games of the last decade is Soccer Wars, specifically the one on PlayStation 4. It blends visual novel dating sim gameplay mixed with an action RPG. Basically, half the time you're walking around talking to different characters, and then the other half you're getting into giant robots, getting into action mech combat. It seems like an odd mix of gameplay, but it's actually a total blast. But what makes the game so compelling is how earnest it is with how wacky it is. I mean, basically, you're this guy and you've been recruited to bring this theater troupe back up to their former glory, and you live inside this theater with these girls, and there's tons of hijinks that ensue, like you'll accidentally walk into the girls' bathroom, or you're trying to clean up and you are in their rooms when you're not supposed to, and just funny, crazy things happen. Nothing scandalous, like nothing that's inappropriate, I would say, but it's just really, really fun. And it also kind of has this like Power Rangers-esque moments where, you know, they're getting their gear on, they're getting into their mechs, and it kind of plays out like an anime because the game is broken down by chapters, and at the end of each chapter it kind of does a recap or a preview of what's going to happen the next time. And you want to talk about something that I never wanted to end, that addicting as heck theme song. I still listen to that song today. I never want that song to stop playing. It's so good, and it's gonna get stuck in your head anytime you listen to it, whether it be in the opening theme or in between chapters when it plays. My God, that theme song is an earworm. But really, I just loved these characters. I loved spending time with these characters. I loved getting to know them. I wish they had their own trilogy of games, or at least a sequel, because they were so charming and I loved getting to know them all. And in fact, I got the Platinum Trophy in Soccer Wars, and even when I finished that, I was like, oh, it's over. There's nothing left to do in Soccer Wars. But genuinely, I wish there was more of it because it was so good. Now, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth might seem like an odd one because a lot of people thought it was too long and had too much content, and while I agree to a certain extent, I just didn't want it to end. The original Final Fantasy VII is one of my favorite games of all time. It's the game that got me into JRPGs, and I've beat that game countless times, and to see it so lovingly remade with high-definition visuals and expanded to how big it was here in Rebirth was a wonder to behold. I love spending time with these characters. It's probably my second favorite cast next to Persona 4, and I loved exploring this world. It was so fun to see these environments that I knew like the back of my hand, like Cosmo Canyon or Costa del Sol, or these different areas, and to see them expanded in all the different mini games. And yes, I genuinely enjoyed doing all the different mini games, going around and trying them all. I mean, I completed the Fort Condor and Queen's Blood quest. They were just so much fun, but I just wanted to get to that ending because the story was so compelling. I was like, how is this going to end? Are they going to change it? Are they going to keep it the same? And even after the story was over, I was like, oh my God, I absolutely want more. I want to see where this goes. I didn't want the game to stop where it did. And honestly, that's just the mark of a good second chapter of a 3-game trilogy. And there is a 3rd game coming. So really, it's not going to end here. But still, even after 80 hours doing almost everything the game had to offer, I wanted more just because it was so compelling. It was so good. And it's the world that made me fall into JRPGs expanded in such a beautiful way. And my goodness, that wait for that last game is going to be a brutal one. Now, from one Final Fantasy to the other, we've got Final Fantasy Tactics. And again, I genuinely lost count of how many times I've played through this game from start to finish. The job system and the battle system are so customizable and flexible. There's so many different ways you can customize your team, from moving to how you react to attacks, to the equipment, to your abilities. There's basically infinite possibilities with how you want to outfit your team. And there are just so many cool special characters in the game. You know, you have Mustadio, the chemist with the gun, you have Agrias with her sword abilities, but then you have special characters from the Final Fantasy series that you can recruit, like Cloud from Final Fantasy VII and Balthier from Final Fantasy XII, as well as some others. And there's all kinds of special items to find and hidden dungeons, and there's just so much to do in the game. And despite essentially earning the Platinum Trophy, despite one not existing, I can't get enough of this game. And it's probably because a true sequel never came out. Like, I know there's the advanced games, but it's not the same timeline and story from this game. And I guess I just keep playing this game over and over to stay engrossed in this world with these characters because it's all so special. And the ending is pretty vague, like you kind of get a sense of what happened, but I would love to see it continue. Like, okay, what happened here? What about all the different characters that told the story? I mean, essentially, the way you're playing the game is being told by someone who's recounting the events in a journal, so it'd be kind of cool to see their adventures or what happens next in this world. And man, you better believe I'll be destroying that fabled remaster remake whenever it comes out. I'm definitely getting the actual platinum when that game comes out because I've been waiting so long for this game to get a proper port to consoles. It really deserves it. And I'm probably going to play that game dozens of times as well. And from one Square strategy RPG to another, we've got Triangle Strategy. Now, the reason this game's on this list is pretty straightforward. There just aren't very many battles in this game. Now, I remember people saying it's borderline a visual novel, and at first I didn't really like that take, but in reflection, I think that's true. There is so much talking, there's so much recapping of the story, and I just wanted more battles. Like, the story was cool, I appreciated what it had to tell, but the gameplay and level design were both so creative. Like, pre-battle, you can explore the environment and get little treasure chests and see what the battlefield's gonna be like. And the level designs were so unique. Like, there's this one where you can set off traps around the environment and one where you're fighting on a bridge. And there's just so much unique terrain that isn't in other strategy RPGs. And I just loved it here. I wanted more of it. Now, I know there are different endings and different routes that you can take depending on which characters you side with, but I just wanted the core story to have more. And when I was done, I didn't really feel wholly satisfied. I didn't really have a good ending. And I did end up starting a second playthrough, but didn't really get around to it. I mean, you know how it goes. Other games come out and you lose track of it. But I genuinely hope this isn't the last we've seen of Triangle Strategy. And if they do a sequel, I really hope they take that to heart and make less story and more battles because the gameplay is just so good. Now, you want to talk about a game that's all killer, no filler from start to finish. We have Granblue Fantasy Relink. I felt like in this game, every main story mission was so wildly different and cool. Now, most of it is you're just kind of fighting big monsters running through a level, but then you have wild stuff like fighting a dragon while on an airship, trying to escape an airship that's on fire, scaling a massive titan, other wild battles that I don't want to spoil. And while the game can be played for hundreds of hours in a Monster Hunter style game loop, I wanted more core story missions. I mean, the one criticism about this game was that it was relatively short, only around 12 hours for the main story. And while that was fine and I felt a certain sense of satisfaction, I definitely wanted more. Like, I like these characters, I love this world, it's so unique, like on all these floating archipelagos. I wanted more of this. Like, man, they got really creative with the mission design and there were so many different things you could do from one battle to the next. Like, what could they have done if they had more of it? And I ended up playing for 50 hours, but that was, again, mostly in the Monster Hunter style, just like hunting down the different monsters. And I think this game sold fairly well, like over 1 million copies relatively soon after release, but they didn't update the sales numbers too much after that. They did support the game, adding some extra characters and levels and things like that, but nothing major. But I really genuinely hope we get a sequel. I want more from this world, and I hope the main core story is even bigger. Now, the Dealfield Chronicle is probably a surprise entry for some, but I absolutely loved this game. There's something so satisfying about its simple design and short levels that scratched a very specific itch for me. I could just get in the level, do it pretty quick, mostly the same strategy, get out, maybe do some side missions, upgrade my troops, do some little side conversations, and then get to the next story mission. I loved it so much that I ended up getting the Platinum Trophy, which I'm probably one of the very few people that have the Platinum Trophy for this game. But what really hooked me was the story. Now, at the beginning, it's all kind of political nonsense like most strategy RPGs, but the one character that changes everything is Waltequin. She is such a cool, compelling character, and maybe not in the way you'd expect. Like, you know, you're like a freedom-fighting mercenary group trying to stop the bad guys, but she is the sort of force of chaos. And at one point, you know, you think she's this sort of like innocent princess character, but she inflicts so much chaos into the story, and she was just so much fun. Not to mention the end of the game is totally insane and fan begs for a sequel. And when the credits rolled, I couldn't believe the game was over. I wanted more story, I wanted more combat, and thankfully we did get some DLC specifically for Walter Quinn, but in my opinion, it was a little underwhelming. I truly hope we get a sequel one day, but I really doubt it because that was during a period where Square just kind of dumped all their games at once and all of them bombed. So I don't think the Diofield Chronicles sold very well, but I loved every second that I spent with that game. It was an absolute blast. I loved the cast of characters and I just wanted more of it. Now, the last game on this list, but certainly not the least, is Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch. When this game first came out, I was obsessed with this game. This was during the era on the PlayStation 3 where we really didn't have very many JRPGs, and the few that we had weren't very good. And we've never had a game that looked like a Studio Ghibli film. And I loved Studio Ghibli, so to have a game that looked just like it, and in fact, they had animated cutscenes that they worked on, and it had the composer Joe Hisaishi that does all the music for Studio Ghibli films. So it was like a Ghibli film that I could play. In fact, I even imported the Japanese version and played it with a friend that spoke Japanese, and that was a really cool experience. But man, when it came out, it was something special. I did absolutely everything in this game. I caught all the monsters, did all the side quests, the little tournament, battle arena. I mean, I did pretty much everything this game had to offer. And I even went really wild and went around my local town trying to find a very specific cover variant of a Game Informer magazine that had Ni no Kuni on the cover because I just loved collecting stuff for this game. I simply could not get enough. In fact, I had save points at every little town around the game just so I could boot it up and walk around. I just was in awe at how gorgeous this game was. And I just loved walking around, exploring the towns and just taking in this art. Like, I could not believe it was a real game. And I was actually at the PlayStation experience when they announced Ni no Kuni 2. And while it's not as good, it was still cool to get more of the game. And eventually Ni no Kuni did get a nice remaster with upscaled visuals, 60 frames per second, making it the ultimate way to experience this game. Now, in hindsight, I don't think it holds up as well, but man, at the time when I played that game, I just never wanted it to end because it was finally a classic JRPG in the old style that I fell in love with, in an art style that was amazing, with a world that was gorgeous. I just simply couldn't get enough of it and never wanted it to end. Now, these were amazing games. I never wanted to end, but to hear about some JRPGs with amazing action combat, be sure you watch this video next.